Her service dog had never disobeyed a command until the day he blocked her from entering her own bedroom. What she didn't know was that something deadly waited under her bed, and he was the only one who sensed it. Lila pushed open the front door and stepped into the quiet hallway, her backpack sliding off her shoulder with a thud. "I'm home," she called out, even though she knew her mom wouldn't be back for another hour. The only sound was the soft click of nails on tile as Toby, her golden Labrador, trotted toward her. His ears were perked up, tail wagging gently at first. She bent down and gave him a quick hug. "Hey, buddy," she whispered, running her fingers through his fur. "Miss me?" Toby licked her cheek, but something about him felt tense. He didn't nuzzle into her like he usually did. Instead, he backed away slightly, turned around, and stood in the hallway. His entire body faced her bedroom door. "What is it?" Lila asked, frowning. She glanced toward the door. It was closed, just like she'd left it that morning. She started walking toward her room, pulling her ponytail loose as she did. Toby moved with her, but instead of following behind like normal, he darted ahead and stopped right in front of the door, blocking her path. His body was stiff, head low, tail no longer wagging. A low growl rolled out from his chest. Lila blinked. "Toby, what are you doing? Move." He didn't. She tried to step around him, but he shifted sideways and pressed his body against her legs. His growl grew louder, more urgent. "Seriously?" she said, half laughing. "Did a squirrel sneak into my room or something?" Toby wasn't playing. His ears flattened against his head, and his eyes never left the door. Lila's smile faded. She reached out to touch the doorknob. In that instant, Toby barked once, sharp and loud, and lunged. The sudden movement caught her completely off guard. She stumbled backward, her backpack slipping off her other shoulder. Toby didn't bite, didn't hurt her. But he pushed into her hard enough that she fell back onto the hallway carpet. "Toby!" she gasped, staring at him. Her heart was pounding now, her hands trembling just a little. She sat up slowly. Toby was still growling, but he stood completely still, like a statue carved out of pure tension. His gaze stayed locked on the bedroom door. Something was wrong, really wrong. She reached for her phone and called her mom with shaky fingers. "Hey, sweetie, I'm just leaving the store. What's—" "Mom," Lila interrupted. "Toby won't let me in my room. He pushed me away from the door. He's growling." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Don't open it," her mom said quickly. "Stay in the hallway. I'm calling 911. I'll be home in 5 minutes." Lila's blood turned cold. She stared at the door, then at Toby, who hadn't moved a muscle. The growling had stopped, but the warning in his posture remained clear. He wasn't just being weird. He was trying to protect her. The front door slammed open as Lila's mom rushed in, breathless and pale, still clutching her car keys. She had heard the panic in her daughter's voice, had dropped everything at the store, and sped home with her heart pounding in her throat. Lila was still sitting on the hallway floor, eyes wide, arms wrapped tightly around her knees. Toby stood guard in front of her, not moving an inch, still staring at the bedroom door with a look no dog should ever have to wear. "Lila," her mom said, kneeling beside her, gently touching her shoulder. "Are you okay? What happened?" "Toby won't let me go in," Lila whispered. "He pushed me down. He growled. He's never done that before." Her mom looked at the dog, then at the door. "Toby," she said softly, "what's in there?" Toby didn't respond, but the moment she touched the doorknob, his body tensed, his tail stiffened, his ears pinned back. He let out a deep, rumbling growl. Lila's mom hesitated, but then slowly turned the knob and pushed the door open. Toby sprang forward. He darted inside, skidding across the hardwood floor, then dove under the bed. His snarls turned sharp, louder, more violent. It was a sound full of warning and urgency. Lila and her mom rushed to the doorway, not daring to step inside. "Toby," her mom called, trying to stay calm. "What is it?" Then they heard it. A faint, steady beep. Her mom's face went pale. She dropped to her knees and peered under the bed. Toby was snarling at a black box, half hidden behind a pile of stuffed animals and old school books. It was about the size of a shoebox, taped shut with electrical tape. On top was a tiny blinking red light. And that sound, soft but steady, continued. Beep, beep, beep. "Lila, go to the neighbor's house. Now," her mom said sharply, standing up so fast she nearly lost her balance. "Run. Don't argue." "What is it?" Lila asked, her voice shaking. "Just go," her mom said, her eyes never leaving the space under the bed. "It's not safe." Lila backed away, and Toby crawled out from beneath the bed, still growling, herding Lila gently toward the door, as if he understood every word. Her mom grabbed her phone and called 911, her hands trembling so badly she nearly dropped it. "This is Amanda Rivers," she said into the phone. "My daughter found a device under her bed. I think it's a bomb." The word didn't feel real. Not in their house, not in her daughter's bedroom, a place filled with stuffed bears and storybooks and drawings on the wall. Within minutes, sirens filled the air. Police cars, fire trucks, and a bomb squad surrounded the house. Neighbors stood outside in their front yards, watching with wide eyes and whispered words. Toby sat beside Lila the whole time, pressed tightly against her side, calm now, but alert. His head rested gently on her lap, as if to say, "I've got you. You're safe." But even then, the question lingered in Lila's heart. Who would put a bomb under her bed? And how did Toby know before anyone else? The flashing red and blue lights lit up the quiet street, painting the trees and sidewalks in colors that didn't belong in their peaceful neighborhood. Police had blocked off the road, keeping people back while the bomb squad set up near the house. Lila stood in the grass across the street, wrapped in a blanket one of the officers had given her. Toby sat at her feet, close and steady, his head resting on her knee. Her mother stood next to them, arms crossed tightly over her chest, eyes locked on the front door of their home. "This can't be real," Lila kept thinking. "This has to be a mistake. Someone left a weird box. Maybe it was just electronics or a prank. Not a bomb. Not in her room. Not under her bed." But the men in heavy suits and helmets didn't look like they were responding to a prank. They moved with care, slow and silent, their faces hidden behind dark visors. One of them carried the black box out, carefully placed inside a container lined with thick foam. Everyone watching seemed to hold their breath. One of the officers walked over to Lila's mom and pulled her aside. Lila couldn't hear what they were saying, but she saw her mother's face pale even more than it already was. The woman nodded slowly, her hands covering her mouth. Then she looked at Lila, her eyes wide with fear. The officer crouched down in front of Lila next, speaking gently. "Sweetheart, the team checked the box. It was a bomb. It had a timer and something else. A camera. It was placed under your bed on purpose." Lila blinked. "A camera?" He nodded. "Whoever did this didn't just want to hurt someone. They wanted to watch." Lila's heart dropped. Her stomach turned. The thought of someone watching her from under her bed made her feel sick and cold all over. She tried to speak, but no words came out. Toby whimpered softly and nudged her arm with his nose. She looked down at him. His eyes were calm, steady, grounding her when everything else felt like it was spinning. She reached out and hugged him tight, burying her face in his neck. "They said it was homemade," her mom whispered to one of the neighbors. "An improvised explosive device. Whoever did this knew what they were doing." Police began knocking on doors, asking if anyone had seen anything strange. People gave confused answers, shaking their heads, holding their children close. Lila sat on the sidewalk, stroking Toby's back over and over. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She didn't want to look at the house anymore. Her room, her bed, it wasn't hers now. It had been invaded. The safest place she knew had been turned into a trap. She looked up at her mom. "Why me?" Her mom didn't answer right away. She sat beside her daughter, pulled her close and whispered, "I don't know. But whoever did this, they're going to find them. And until then, we have Toby." Lila nodded slowly. She didn't feel safe, but she felt something else. She felt protected. Because Toby knew. Before anyone else, he knew. and he saved her life. Toby's photo was on the news that night. A still image of him sitting beside Lila, his head held high, eyes alert. The caption called him a hero. Service dog saves girl from hidden bomb, it read. Reporters stood outside the family's home, lights and cameras pointed at the yard. Everyone wanted to know more about the dog who had stopped a disaster. But inside the house, the mood was quiet, heavy. The reporters could talk about heroism and miracles, but Lila and her mom were still trying to sleep in a hotel room that didn't smell like home. They couldn't stop thinking about what almost happened. A few more seconds, one more step into that room, and everything would have been different. Lila sat on the edge of the hotel bed, hugging her knees to her chest. Toby lay beside her, resting his chin on her leg, his eyes half closed but still watchful. She had barely let him out of her sight since that day. Even at the hotel, he followed her from room to room, never more than a few steps away. "Why would someone do this?" Lila asked quietly. Her mom didn't answer right away. She was sitting at the small table near the window, going over papers the police had given her, eyes full of worry. "I don't know," she said finally. "But they will figure it out. The FBI is helping now. They're looking into everyone who's been near our house, anyone who had a reason to watch you." Lila's heart sank. The thought that someone had been watching her, maybe for days or weeks, made her skin crawl. Her bedroom window, the hall, her bed, they weren't safe anymore. Not even in her mind. "They said the bomb was real," her mom continued, "and it was set to go off when it sensed movement. You would have walked in and—" She stopped, her voice catching. "Toby saved you, Lila. He knew. Somehow he knew." Lila looked down at her dog, brushing her fingers through his soft fur. "But how? He's trained to help when I have a seizure, not to find bombs." Her mom nodded slowly. "That's the part no one understands. The police asked the training center if he had any kind of special detection work, but they said no, just medical response. Reporters had asked the same question. How did he sense danger when no one else could? Some people thought he must have smelled something strange, maybe the chemicals inside the device. Others believed he simply knew something was wrong, that he felt it somehow. Whatever the reason, Lila didn't care. He saved her. That was enough. The next morning, a small package arrived at the hotel. Inside was a collar with a silver tag that read, "Toby, Hero Dog." It was from the mayor. There was a note, too, thanking him for his bravery and inviting the family to a ceremony next week. Lila looked at the tag for a long time, then clipped it gently onto Toby's collar. "You don't need medals," she whispered, "but I want everyone to know what you did." Toby wagged his tail once, then curled up beside her. He didn't care about fame. He didn't care about news cameras or medals. He just cared about her. And he would protect her again, no matter what. Lila couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the box again. The blinking red light, the quiet beeping, the space under her bed where someone had been. She tossed and turned in the hotel bed, the blankets too heavy, the air too still. Toby lay at her feet, his body warm against hers, but even his steady breathing couldn't chase the fear away. She kept thinking about that week at school, right before everything happened. Something had felt off. There had been a man fixing lights in the hallway near her locker. He wore a dark blue uniform and a cap pulled low over his face. She remembered thinking he looked too old to be one of the usual staff, and he never spoke to anyone, just watched. She told herself it was nothing. People came and went at school all the time. But now she wasn't so sure. At breakfast the next morning, she stared at her cereal without touching it. Her mom sat across from her with a cup of coffee, flipping through the news on her tablet. The TV in the corner of the hotel lobby was turned to a local station. Lila wasn't listening until she heard the word school. Her head snapped up. On the screen was a story about a nearby school having trouble with fake maintenance workers showing up without being scheduled. The reporter talked about security concerns and new ID checks being added. Then the camera showed a blurry still image of one of the men who had been spotted. He wore a blue jumpsuit, his face partly turned from the lens. It wasn't very clear, but the moment the image appeared, Toby shot to his feet. He barked, loud and sharp. Lila jumped in her seat. "Toby?" her mom said, surprised. But Toby wasn't barking randomly. He had his eyes locked on the screen, his ears straight up, his body tense. His growl started deep in his chest. Lila felt her stomach twist. "That's him," she said quietly. "That's the man from my school, the one I saw last week. I told you he gave me a weird feeling." Her mom looked at her, startled. "You never mentioned that." "I thought I was just imagining things," Lila said. "He was in the hallway, fixing lights, or at least pretending to. He never looked like he belonged." Toby continued barking, then looked from the screen to Lila and back again, as if trying to say, "Yes, that's him. That's the one." Her mom turned to the front desk and asked for the remote. She rewound the story and paused it on the man's photo. Toby barked again and put his paws on the edge of the table, staring at the screen with intensity. Lila's mom didn't argue this time. She picked up her phone and called the police. "My daughter says she saw this man at her school last week," she told them, "and her service dog is reacting like he knows something. I think you need to talk to us." Toby didn't stop growling for a long time after the call ended. He remembered that man, and Lila was starting to realize that maybe Toby hadn't just saved her life once. Maybe he was still trying to protect her from something, or someone, who wasn't done yet. The knock at the hotel door came early in the morning. Lila and her mom were still in their pajamas. Toby barked once, not in fear, but to let them know someone was there. Lila opened the door slowly, standing behind her mom. A woman stood in the hallway. She wore a simple black jacket with small white letters that read FBI. Her smile was kind, but serious. Her eyes looked sharp, like she noticed everything. "Good morning. I'm Agent Monroe," she said. "May I come in?" Lila's mom nodded and stepped aside. Toby sniffed the agent's shoes, then moved back to his usual spot near Lila. Agent Monroe sat at the table with a small laptop bag in her hand. She didn't waste time. "I've been assigned to your case," she said. "Your daughter's service dog showed a strong reaction to a man shown on the news. That caught our attention." Lila sat quietly, watching. Her fingers rested on Toby's back. "We've started reviewing security footage from the school," the agent continued. "Your daughter was right. The man she saw was not on the official maintenance schedule. He used a fake name and wore a uniform stolen from a real worker who went missing last month." Lila's mom gasped softly. "Missing?" Agent Monroe nodded. "We believe this man has used multiple names in the past, and we've seen his pattern before." She opened her laptop and turned the screen toward them. On it was a photo of a man's face, not clear, but close enough. Lila leaned in. "That's him," she said. "That's the man from the hallway." Monroe clicked a few times, bringing up a new screen. "This name here, Marcus Dean, is one of many we've connected to him, but we believe his real name is Victor Kane." She paused. "And Victor Kane is suspected in several cases across 3 states, children gone missing, schools with strange reports, and one school in particular where a device exploded in a storage room late at night. Thankfully, no one was hurt, but it was never solved." Lila's mom sat down slowly. "And you think he was watching my daughter?" "I believe so," Monroe said. "He watches his targets first, studies them, finds a way to blend in. He uses janitor and maintenance disguises because people don't notice them. They're just part of the background. But your dog noticed. That changes everything." Toby stood and walked to the screen, then sat down, his eyes never leaving the photo. "He knows," Monroe said softly, watching the dog. "He remembers." Lila looked at Toby. "He didn't just save me that day. He's trying to tell us more. We just didn't know how to listen." Monroe nodded. "Well, we're listening now." She reached into her bag and pulled out a thick folder. It was marked with red tape and had the words "Janitor File" written across the front. "This man is dangerous," she said, "but your daughter is alive because of her dog, and I believe that same dog can help us catch him before he hurts anyone else." Toby didn't move. He just stared at the screen, as if he already knew where this was going. The first time Toby growled again, it was in the parking lot of the grocery store. Lila and her mom had stopped to pick up a few things. The air smelled like summer and hot asphalt, but something in the breeze made Toby freeze. His ears perked up, and he turned his head sharply toward the back of the building. A second later, a maintenance van rolled past, its engine rattling, the scent of motor oil and lemon cleaner following behind it. Toby growled low in his throat, his body tense, eyes focused like he was ready to protect again. Lila tightened her grip on the leash. "It's okay, buddy," she whispered, even though she wasn't sure it was. Her stomach twisted just a little. It happened again 2 days later, this time at the hotel. A cleaning cart passed their room, the strong smell of lemon-scented bleach filling the hallway. Toby didn't bark, but he stood up fast, his body stiff and alert. He walked to the door and sat there, growling quietly, like he was warning something not to come any closer. Lila and her mom told Agent Monroe. She wrote everything down, nodding with interest. "Certain smells and sounds can bring back memories for dogs," she said. "Especially strong ones. If this man used certain cleaners, if he worked with certain tools or drove a loud van, Toby could be remembering those things." Monroe made a note and looked thoughtful. "Keep watching him. He may react again." The following week, the school reopened. After careful review and security upgrades, students were allowed back. Cameras were added, new staff hired, and a school officer now stood at the main entrance every morning. Lila returned to class, nervous but trying to be brave. Toby walked beside her, calm and steady, as always. Then, on Thursday, everything changed again. It happened just after lunch. Lila and Toby were walking down the hall when a new janitor stepped out of the supply room. He wore the same kind of dark blue jumpsuit as the others. A patch with a name stitched on the chest, a cap pulled low. The scent of motor oil and lemon cleaner hit the air at once. Toby lunged. He barked, loud and sharp, dragging Lila forward as he rushed the man. His teeth didn't sink in, but he snapped and growled, standing protectively in front of Lila like a shield. The hallway froze. A teacher shouted, and 2 staff members ran over. The janitor stepped back, hands raised. "What's wrong with that dog?" "He's never done that before," Lila said, her voice shaking. "He only does that when—" "He's out of control," one staff member interrupted. "He can't stay in the building." Toby was pulled away, and by the end of the day, he was banned from school grounds. The principal said service dogs were supposed to be calm and quiet, and that Toby was now a distraction. Lila cried when she got home. "He's trying to help, but no one's listening." Agent Monroe was. She asked for the janitor's full name and background check. She pulled up the staff files and started digging. Within hours, she found a problem. The ID number listed for the new janitor belonged to someone else, and the real man had never shown up for his first day. Agent Monroe stared at the screen, then whispered, "It's him. He's back." Toby had known all along. The house was quiet that night, too quiet. Lila couldn't sleep, not really. She tossed under the covers, listening to the sound of the crickets outside. The hotel stay had ended, and now they were back in their house, with new locks, cameras, and alarms. Everything was supposed to be safe again, but it didn't feel safe. It felt like someone was still watching. Toby lay beside her bed, just like he always did. He hadn't barked in days, but he wasn't the same. He was restless, alert, always listening. Around midnight, Lila heard a sound, a sharp crack, then the soft whine of a screen door. She sat up, heart pounding. Toby was gone. Her bedroom window looked out toward the woods behind their yard. In the moonlight, she saw him, running through the grass, disappearing into the trees. "Mama!" she shouted. Within seconds, her mom was at the door, already pulling on her jacket. "Grab your flashlight," she said. "We're going after him." They didn't stop to think. They just followed. Lila's flashlight bounced as they walked fast down the back trail, calling Toby's name. The night air was cool, the forest dark and still. Every crunch of leaves under their feet felt too loud. "Toby!" Lila yelled again, her voice trembling. Then they heard him bark. Not close, but not too far either. One single, sharp bark, then silence. They pushed deeper into the trees, brushing past low branches and brambles, until Lila's light caught something strange ahead. It looked like a small building, almost hidden by vines and leaves. It was old, maybe even forgotten. A broken shed with a slanted roof and half-rotted wood. Toby barked again, this time from inside. Lila's mom stepped forward carefully and opened the warped door. The smell hit them first. Dust, oil, and something else, like chemicals and plastic. The flashlight beam moved across the small room. That's when they saw it. Pictures, dozens of them, pinned to the wall. Some were of Lila at school, at the park, walking home. Some were taken from a distance, others frighteningly close. Maps were spread out on the table, circles drawn in red ink. There were notes about school schedules, door lock times, and after-school programs. In the corner was a desk covered with wires, batteries, and metal pieces. Bomb parts. And right in the middle, taped to a corkboard, were the words, "Next time." Lila felt her knees go weak. She leaned into her mom, who held her tight. Toby stood guard in the middle of the room, his eyes locked on the far corner where a black duffel bag sat. He had led them here. He had known. Lila's mom called 911 with a shaky voice, giving the address through tears. When police arrived, they found even more tools, fake uniforms, lists of names. Agent Monroe showed up minutes later, her face pale but focused. "You weren't just a target," she told Lila. "You were part of something bigger." Toby stayed close the whole time, his body pressed to Lila's side. He hadn't just escaped. He had hunted, he had remembered, and he had found the place where the danger lived. Because Toby wasn't done protecting her. The woods were quiet again, but not in the peaceful way they used to be. Now, every shadow felt like a threat, every rustle in the leaves a warning. FBI agents moved through the trees like ghosts, dressed in black, with radios clipped to their shoulders, and quiet voices speaking into headsets. The shed had been left untouched, just like Toby had found it. The photos, the maps, the wire everything stayed exactly where it was. It was bait now. They were setting a trap. Agent Monroe stood near the edge of the clearing, her eyes fixed on the small shack. She didn't blink much. Lila sat in a van nearby with her mom, watching everything from a small screen inside. She didn't like this plan, not one bit. Toby was part of it. He had been so sure the man would come back, and the agents had agreed. They asked if Toby could return to the shed, to wait, just like before. It made Lila feel sick, but Monroe promised that Toby would never be alone. She would be right there, and the moment the man showed up, they would end it. Toby didn't seem scared. He walked into the shack calmly, tail still, eyes alert. He sat right in the center, his nose twitching, ears listening for anything. Agent Monroe crouched behind the broken door, her weapon ready. Hours passed. The sun dipped low, and the forest turned gold, then gray. Still nothing. Then, just as the sky turned black, a sound broke the silence. A soft footstep. Then another. Toby stood. A shadow moved at the edge of the trees. A tall figure, wearing a dark jacket, cap pulled low. He stepped into the clearing like he owned it. Quiet, confident. He walked straight toward the shed. Agent Monroe gave the signal. As the man stepped through the doorway, everything happened at once. Monroe jumped out, shouting for him to freeze. Agents moved in from all sides, but the man didn't run. He pulled a knife from his belt and lunged. He went straight for Monroe. Toby didn't hesitate. He launched himself forward, teeth bared, slamming into the man's side. The knife slashed through the air and struck Toby across his shoulder. He yelped, but didn't stop. He bit down hard on the attacker's arm, forcing him backward, giving Monroe the chance to grab her radio and shout for backup. The man swung wildly, trying to shake Toby off, but Toby held firm. Blood soaked into his fur, and still he fought. More agents stormed in, tackling the man to the ground. The knife slid across the floor. Someone kicked it away. The forest echoed with shouting, heavy breathing, the click of handcuffs. And then it was over. Monroe dropped to her knees beside Toby. "Hold on," she said, pressing her hand to his wound. "You did good. You saved my life." Lila was already running toward them, tears streaming down her face. Toby looked up at her, his eyes cloudy with pain, but still full of love. He had passed his last test. Not as a trained dog, not even as a hero, but as family. And he had never let them down. The sky was still dark when the black SUV pulled up to the emergency vet hospital. 2 agents helped lift Toby out of the back seat, his fur soaked with blood, his breathing fast and shallow. Lila ran beside them, clutching her mother's hand, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. She could barely speak. She just kept looking at Toby, whispering his name over and over, like if she said it enough, he would stay. The vet team was already waiting. A woman in blue scrubs knelt beside the stretcher and placed a hand gently on Toby's head. "We've got you, brave boy," she said. "Let's move." Doors swung open. Lights flashed. Voices rose around them in short, sharp commands. Then Toby was gone, wheeled through another set of doors, and Lila was left standing in the hallway with her mom and Agent Monroe, who had blood on her jacket but refused to leave. "They said he's strong," Monroe said softly. "He's got a chance." Lila didn't answer. She walked to the corner of the waiting room, sat down on the cold floor, and wrapped her arms around her knees. She could still feel his weight against her when he leaned into her at the shed, could still see his eyes looking up at her even after he'd been hurt. The minutes felt like hours. Every time someone walked down the hallway in scrubs, Lila's head shot up, but no one had news, just soft looks and quiet footsteps. A nurse finally came by with a pillow and a blanket. "You should get some rest, sweetheart," she said kindly. "It's going to be a long night." Lila didn't go to the chair. She walked straight to the hallway outside the operating room and lay down on the floor next to the door. She closed her eyes, but sleep didn't come. Later, one of the vets brought her to a small recovery area where Toby would be taken after surgery. There was a crate already prepared with soft blankets and gentle heat. Lila curled up beside it and waited. Her mom tried to get her to eat, to drink, but she just shook her head. "I'm not leaving him," she whispered. At 2 in the morning, the door opened. The vet stepped in, her face tired but calm. "He made it," she said. "It was close. The knife missed his heart by a few inches, but we were able to stop the bleeding. He's still very weak, but he's fighting." They wheeled Toby in slowly, his body wrapped in white gauze, a small oxygen tube beside him. His eyes were closed, but his ears twitched at the sound of Lila's voice. She knelt beside the crate, pressed her forehead gently against the metal bars, and whispered the same words she always said when she had a seizure, and he was there to guide her back. "You stay with me." His tail moved, just once. It was enough. The morning after Toby's surgery, the world felt quiet and strange. Lila hadn't left the recovery room. She stayed curled up beside his crate, whispering softly to him, watching his chest rise and fall. His breathing was slow, but steady. Nurses said he was strong, a fighter. But every time Lila looked at the bandages wrapped around his chest, she felt a cold twist in her stomach. Agent Monroe came to the hospital later that day. Her jacket was still dusty from the forest, and she looked like she hadn't slept either. She knelt beside Lila and gave her a tired but gentle smile. "He's going to be okay," she said. Lila nodded, though her eyes stayed on Toby. Monroe placed a small black box on the floor beside her. It looked like an old electronics case, the kind people use to store wires or tools. "We found this inside the wall of the shack," she said, hidden behind some insulation. Lila looked up. "What's inside?" "A USB drive," Monroe said. "We just finished going through it. I think you need to know what we found." Lila's mom stepped into the room then, sitting beside her daughter. Monroe opened her folder, her face serious now. The drive was full of video files, dozens of them, each one recorded from a hidden camera placed beneath different beds. Lila's breath caught. "Some of the girls have been identified," Monroe continued. "Others are still unknown. We believe this man, Michael Tarrant, used fake jobs to get access to homes and schools. He would install these devices, record for days or weeks, and then disappear. Lila's hands curled into fists. Her voice came out as a whisper. Was I one of them? Monroe nodded slowly. Yes. We found a folder with your name. The footage shows your room. The camera was placed under your bed. It was live. He was watching. Lila's mom pulled her close, tears already in her eyes. Monroe cleared her throat, then said, There was more. The bomb found in your room had a motion sensor. The timer was linked to the camera. If you had walked into the room that day, the moment your feet touched the floor, it would have started counting down. Lila didn't speak. Her eyes turned to Toby. He knew, she whispered. He knew before anyone else. Monroe nodded. He stopped everything. He changed the plan. If he hadn't reacted, we wouldn't have found the shed. We wouldn't have caught him. Lila looked back at the box. What's going to happen to the other girls? We're reaching out to every family, Monroe said. Some of them may not even know they were watched, but they'll know now, and they'll know who stopped him. Toby let out a soft, low breath. His tail moved slightly. Lila reached through the bars and touched his paw. You saved me, she said quietly, and maybe you saved them too. Outside the window, the sun was rising. Inside, Lila sat with her hand resting on her hero's side. The countdown had never started, because Toby had already finished the race. The house felt different now. The fear had faded, but the memories stayed. The hallway still creaked the same. The wind still moved through the trees behind the house, but Lila no longer looked over her shoulder every time she walked to her room. The cameras were still there, the locks still double-checked, but her heart felt lighter. Because Toby was home. He returned 3 weeks after surgery, riding in the back of the car with his head resting on Lila's lap. His body moved slower now, and his side was shaved where the stitches had been. There were scars. But his eyes were the same, calm, steady, and full of love. The town held a small ceremony in the school gym. Balloons hung from the ceiling, folding chairs lined up neatly, and a banner stretched across the wall that read, Welcome home, Toby. The room filled with neighbors, teachers, police officers, and kids from school. Lila stood at the front of the stage with a microphone in her hand, her heart pounding in her chest. Toby lay beside her, his shiny new service vest snug over his bandages. A small medal hung from his collar, shaped like a star. Lila cleared her throat and looked at the crowd. My name is Lila, she said, her voice a little shaky. Most of you know that a few weeks ago, something really scary happened to me. Someone tried to hurt me. Someone watched me, without me knowing. But I'm here today because of my dog. She looked down at Toby and smiled. He looked back at her like he already knew what she was going to say. Toby didn't just save my life, she continued. He gave me my life back. He protected me before I even knew I was in danger. And when things got really bad, he didn't run away. He ran toward the danger. For me. For all of us. People wiped their eyes. Some clapped. Others just sat in silence, moved by every word. The state gave him a medal, Lila said, holding it up for everyone to see. And I think he deserves 1,000 of them. But Toby doesn't care about medals. He doesn't care about speeches. He just wants to be with his person. She knelt beside him and placed a soft kiss on his head. I'm lucky, she whispered, because I get to be his person. After the event, people came up one by one to pet Toby and thank him. He wagged his tail slowly, tired but happy. He stayed close to Lila, always watching, always ready. That night, back at home, Lila got ready for bed. She pulled the covers up to her chin and looked toward the floor. There he was. Toby had crawled under the bed, resting his head just far enough out that he could still see her. You're still on guard, she said softly. Even now. He thumped his tail once in reply. And as the stars lit up the night sky and the house settled into stillness, Lila smiled. Because Toby wasn't just her service dog. He was her guardian, her best friend, and her forever family. And he would never leave her side again. Thanks for watching this incredible story of bravery and devotion. If you believe Toby deserves the title of hero, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more stories that celebrate the animals who change our lives.